Pam Bondi came before this committee, and I asked her questions about this, and she said to me, and these are her words, politics will not play a part in our decisions. Here you go. So when Donald Trump couldn't find someone in the Justice Department to bring the charges against Comey, he pushed out Eric Siebert. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Former Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson, who later became the chief prosecutor at Nuremberg, gave an address in 1940 when he was Attorney General, and it was titled Federal Prosecutor. He said, while the prosecutor at his best is one of the most beneficent forces in our society, when he acts from malice or other base motives, he is one of the worst. Unfortunately, President Trump, driven by clear malice, ordered the prosecution of James Comey, a prosecution which was rejected by a career Republican prosecutor who had looked at the facts and looked at the evidence for months. In a country devoted to the rule of law, it is simply unconscionable for the president to direct the Justice Department to engage in political prosecutions against the recommendations of a career prosecutor. Maybe you think this is small. Maybe you all know that Comey will win this case, as he said himself, bring it on, go to trial. But to me, it is much deeper than that. Donald Trump posted on social media, and the whole world saw his instructions to the Attorney General to go after his perceived political enemies, including the former director of the FBI, who, by the way, was a Republican-appointed U.S. attorney, served a number of positions under Republicans, was my law school classmate, so I know a little bit about his politics. He ordered the Justice Department to go after the sitting Attorney General in the state of New York, and he even ordered the entire Justice Department to go after a member of this committee. And if that is not chilling to my colleagues and they don't care about this, I don't even know what to say anymore. Pam Bondi came before this committee, and I asked her questions about this, and she said to me, and these are her words, politics will not play a part in our decisions. Here you go. So when Donald Trump couldn't find someone in the Justice Department to bring the charges against Comey, he pushed out Eric Siebert, a conservative Republican, by Mark Warner's account, a prosecutor that was recommended by the Republican governor of the state of Virginia, and he installed a White House aide to overrule the career prosecutors. He is pressuring the Justice Department about whom to prosecute, rather than letting the career prosecutor make a decision about the facts and the laws. That's not justice. As former Trump White House attorney Ty Cobb said, we have a president for the first time in history ordering his AG to indict his enemies. And the AG, instead of being the independent force she's supposed to be, is saying, yes, sir. How can I get that done? Andrew McCarthy, a former federal prosecutor and conservative commentator, also said that this was a vindictive indictment, incomprehensible, and a mess. You know, I was a prosecutor for 8 years, ran a sizable office, and people would call, hey, don't go after that kid. Oftentimes a kid would be like 35 years old. And not once did I ever go to the career prosecutor and say, get rid of that case, don't do that, oh, have less of a sentence. Because when you cross that line, because you have had that kind of political pressure put on you, you can't go back. You can't go back. You took an oath to represent the government, the people, whether it's a state, whether it is the country, and not to represent, in this case, the president. And this is not happening in a vacuum. At the same time, the president directs investigations and prosecutions of his perceived enemies. He gives pardons to and rewards his friends. The administration reportedly shut down an investigation into border czar Tom Homan for accepting a $50,000 cash bribe. The president pardoned January 6 insurrectionists who assaulted police officers in this very building. And he pressured prosecutors to dismiss a corruption case against Eric Adams. It was Hayden Scotton who was the career prosecutor in that case, someone who had clerked for Justice Roberts and then Judge Kavanaugh. And he said this when he was asked to do the dirty work. He wouldn't do the corrupt work. He said, "You will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me." That's what this is about. And all of us, elected by our states, have to look in our own conscience and think, is this going to be me? Am I going to go along with this? Or am I going to say something about it? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very.
At today's Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, Senator Amy Klobuchar delivered a sharp rebuke of what she described as a politically motivated prosecution of former FBI Director James Comey. She began by recalling former Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson's 1940 address, Federal Prosecutor, which warned that while prosecutors can be one of society's greatest forces for good, when acting with malice, they can become one of the worst. Klobuchar argued that former President Donald Trump, driven by clear malice, ordered the prosecution of James Comey despite a career Republican prosecutor rejecting the case after months of reviewing the facts. In a nation built on the rule of law, she said, it is unconscionable for any president to direct the Justice Department to pursue political prosecutions against expert legal recommendations. She noted that Trump made his instructions public on social media, openly telling the Attorney General to go after his perceived enemies, including the former FBI Director, the Attorney General of New York, and even a sitting member of Congress. When career officials refused to act, Trump allegedly pushed out Eric Sebert, a respected Republican prosecutor, and installed a White House aide to override career prosecutors. According to Klobuchar, this undermines the independence of the Justice Department. She cited former Trump White House attorney Ty Cobb, who described this as the first time in history a president has directly ordered an attorney general to indict his political enemies, and conservative legal commentator Andrew McCarthy, who called the indictment vindictive and incomprehensible. Drawing on her own 8 years as a prosecutor, Klobuchar stressed the danger of political interference in criminal cases. Once that line is crossed, she said, there is no going back. Prosecutors take an oath to serve the people, not a president. She also pointed to a troubling pattern. While Trump was targeting perceived enemies with investigations and prosecutions, he was simultaneously pardoning and protecting allies, including January 6 rioters and associates accused of corruption. One career prosecutor, Hayden Scotton, reportedly refused to carry out a politically motivated dismissal, telling officials that while they might eventually find someone willing to do it, it would not be him. Klobuchar closed with a challenge to her colleagues. This, she said, is not just about one prosecution. It is about whether elected officials will remain silent or speak out when the rule of law is under threat.